You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Pace Radio Show. We're live here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. Tonight on the program, we have a guest who is helping patients and has been involved in the cannabis in some way for a few decades. But first, hello, Tamara. How you doing?
I'm good, Al. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Actually, I was really looking forward to being outside tonight, doing the broadcast from out there, but a little bit windy out there, and the temperature's a little cooler, so the breeze is a little cooler as well.
It's been nice here all day.
Yeah.
I got one puppy out the door, and I sold a chicken today, or traded a chicken for another chicken today. So that's what my day consisted of: waiting for somebody to come pick up a pup, and then I traded a chicken, and yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you moved it. You got rid of the last puppy?
No, I still have the one.
Oh, okay. I keep hearing I keep seeing little words about. Oh, I might keep this one.
Alvin's a hard no. And to be fair, I work full time. We've already got 9. I don't really have time for him. It's not fair to him. So if I could find somebody, would give him a good home and they're willing to pay what I want for him, I will get rid of him. But again, I'm standing the price, standing firm on the fact that he needs a really decent home, and that's why he's a price tag with what he gets. So.
Yeah. So today you got your broadcast back on the go, Cannabis and Coffee.
I did. Yeah, Cannabis and Coffee with Marijuana is live with Cindy Hemrick today from the Coca Cafe and the Mushroom Dispensary, and get your drugs tested, and we chatted about all of those things. And it's really important to know that they're actually getting other Spectrum machines. So every location in Vancouver downtown where they've got their dispensaries, which they do have a medical marijuana dispensary still, which is next door to the Coca Cafe, there will be full Spectrum drug testing machines in other locations. They're just waiting for them to be shipped from Europe, meaning that they'll be able to do more drug testing for safe consumption in downtown.
Yeah. I remember when Dana was on the program with us. It's been just over a year now since he was on last. There was 25,000 different tests that he's done for people to make sure that what they were consuming was safe.
And thankfully, Anchors in Cranbrook, BC is the only other entity in British Columbia that has that machine. And that was donated to our Anchors here in Cranbrook, BC by Shambhala a few years ago. So we are the only other place in British Columbia besides the machines that Dana has in the Lower Mainland that actually has a full Spectrum machine for drug testing in the East Kootenay. So I'm really happy to hear that they're going to have 3 in total in the lower downtown east side moving forward here. They're just waiting for them to be shipped, and they're expensive.
No,
so
is that did she say whether it was a free service or is it charged for that?
Free service. It always has been a free service. You can either mail it in, they'll send you back your stuff, so it'll cost you postage, of course. Right. But if you're in downtown, if you're in Vancouver, you can just roll in there. They'll do your testing for you, and it's free. And it's free here too at Anchors. The testing has always been free. So there's also at Anchors you can access tools or whatever. I'm actually not sure exactly what their kits are full of, but they've got naloxone and all that kind of things.
Right.
And, everything that helps with safe consumption, right? It's not a safe consumption site, but it's a safe consumption advocate, and that's what we're that's what they're about, right? And that's
you got to think that every time that they find a bad test,
it goes out as a drug bulletin here in our city. In our little town. And we get drug alerts on our radio stations and on the Facebook pages and stuff. And right now we're under a drug alert I don't use any other drugs at all, anyways. But I hear it on my radio that there's some blue, chunky something going around there, calling it whatever. It's some down meth combined with fentanyl and fentanyl, and it's a blue rock, and it's killing people. We've had several overdoses in the last 2 weeks here.
Well, let's hope that people can get access to the type of services like what Dana and Cindy are doing.
Testing. Well, testing is the first thing, and they also, like I said, offer services there too, like for recovery. Right, when you go, there's all kinds of people there that will point you in the right direction as to where you can go for detox recovery centers. And I know that the province of British Columbia here, Top of the Mountain is a really good one that we have out here in the East Kootenay. But at one point, it was privately owned, and it was $10,000 a month to go and get cleaned up, and that's because they were literally pandering to CP Rail and the oil patch. And tech
because where's the person on the street going to get that kind of money?
Right. So tech mines, CP rails, and all the oil patches, they get a one shot kind of thing where if you are found, if you've been working for the companies for a long time, they will let you get cleaned up. They will send you to treatment. They have to, and then give you your job back. But you have to stay clean. You have to stay in recovery, right?
That's good.
So this place would pander to that, but the BC government now has bought it, and they're actually offering free detox and payment plans. So actually, people on the streets have the ability to get recovery if they can. So it's not unaffordable.
Yeah, well, it's great that those things are services are, being available. It's getting everybody to use them.
Recovery is the cost of it, and you can't do it. It's not free. I get that, but I mean, it should be covered under our healthcare, under MSP, and any provincial healthcare system. Recovery and treatment should be covered under that. Just like if you stayed in a hospital, it should be the same.
Make a difference if it was. That's for
With
sure.
cancer, they cover cancer. If you're going to cover cancer, then why aren't you covering mental health and addiction? The same way as you would with MSP or any other thing.
It's a sickness, that's for sure. All right, we got to move on. At this time, as we talk about moving on, we're going to welcome a man who's been spent decades, as I said, in the cannabis in some way, involved in some way. He's going to be here to explain all that, whether he's been helping patients or those looking to get started in the cannabis business. We'd like to welcome David Johnson to the Pace Radio Show. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great, thanks. Yourself?
Doing very well. Well, I always say that.
He's inside because it's cold and windy.
I'm inside. Right. That's right. I'm doing better that way. But hey, we're patients, right?
Well, that's it.
As patients, we have our health issues, and they, just because you get a radio show, doesn't mean that they go away, right? But
no,
right, absolutely not.
Yeah, exactly. So, David, welcome to the broadcast, to the Pace Radio Show. It's great to have you on. It was surprising when you got a hold of me that how close the two of us really are.
Really? Yes.
Yeah. He's just not down the street, but we're used to having guests that could be anywhere in the United States, Canada, wherever, right? And so to get somebody within the hour of me isn't something that we always do. So it's good. When we talk about cool weather or snow or something, you're experiencing the same weather as us.
Exactly. That's why I know it's chilly, because I just brought the dog in. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, David, to get started, we can, we just sort of go on the cuff how everything just sort of flows along, just like a conversation. And sometimes you come back to things multiple times. You just never know how things are. But
that's the nature of cannabis, right? Sometimes we have to come back to it multiple times.
That's right.
Where you started, so you have to go back and retry it again.
That's right.
Yeah. So, what I'd like to talk about, as I said in the intro, I looked at your website, decades. I think it was 45 years. You had listed there. You've been involved in cannabis some way. Yep. So before we get into all those details of that part, do you remember your first time you used cannabis?
Absolutely, I do.
There you go. Hey, not everybody remembers.
I do remember it. It was kind of funny because I was 11 years old.
Oh,
and, Well, I grew up in an area where I was about 4 years younger than a lot of the kids
Okay.
on
Yeah.
my street. So I kind of started things at a
That was,
different age, right? I was as big as
yeah.
everybody else because I was a tall kid. So
Yeah.
I looked the same age, but I really wasn't the same age. So,
Well, I was 13 the
okay.
first time I took, and a lot of other people have been that age. But I think you've got to be probably the youngest that I can think of what's come out and said that they're 11. So yeah.
Yeah. I was 11. And it was kind of funny because my parents were going to the opera that night, and they were going with our family doctor and his wife. So they thought, well, it'll be great. We'll drop David off over at the doctor's house, and he can hang out with their children for the evening, and then it'll be nice. And little did they know that their kids were smoking weed, and that's where I first smoked a joint. That night they thought they dropped me off into a safe environment for the evening, but I learned about marijuana. So
It's always the doctor's kids, the ones that are always up to no good.
that's right. That's
It's
right.
always the affluent kids that aren't supposed to be doing shit are the ones that are always doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've never looked back since.
Right?
No, like you.
No.
When I was talking to you there on the phone, just so you know, the deer has been back. Right?
Oh, okay.
I was talking to David on the phone, and all of a sudden I looked up and there was a deer walking down the trail towards me.
Oh,
I said,
I like to look out my front window. There'd be one looking in my front window at me. So I hear you. And I live in town,
yeah, she lives in town and she gets deer right in her backyard. So
You're in BC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So where did things go from there? Like obviously, you smoked your first joint, you just all of a sudden didn't start helping patients and
No, that
stuff like
was
that.
a long time afterwards. So basically, I always kept smoking, and then as I got a little older, I got into doing my own plants. You know what I mean? I'd grow my couple of plants every year, and from there, I got into making bubble hash for myself. So I did that. So that was just my personal stuff.
Right.
And then around 2012, I was driving 18 wheelers, and it's a tough job. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a very stressful job. It's a low paying job. I wasn't very happy with it.
I have a family member who's driving truck.
Yeah, it's the funny thing is they were making just as much money in the 70s as they are now, really. You know what I mean? Paying guys $18 an hour to drive those trucks, and they're deadly. Right?
Oh.
And if you're not paying people well, then you're not getting the best possible people in that position, right? So I was dissatisfied with it, let's say. And one night I was just thinking, what would if I didn't care about money, if money was off the table, what would I do with my life? What passion would I follow? And for me, it was cannabis. It's the one thing that's been in my life that has always held a curiosity for me, that I've always wanted to learn more about, that I've always, you know what I mean? That's just a passion for me. So I thought, well, how am I going to do this? I'm 45 years old. Cannabis isn't legal. So how do I do this? So I was living in Laval, just outside of Montreal, and we had High Times, a head shop, not too far from where I lived. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go down there and see if I can get a job. And I'm not bilingual, so I thought that's one strike against me right there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, but I walked into the building. I looked for the oldest guy I could see. And when I found him, I walked over to him and I said, how you doing? I said, are you the boss here? He said, well, it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for hydroponic stuff, I am. And I said, well, actually, I'm looking for a job. And he said, oh, well, you're going to have to talk to that guy over there. And he points me over to basically a kid half my age. So I go over to this kid and I said, listen, I'm interested in working here, And he says to me, well, have you put your application online? Have you applied online to the company? And I said, no, I haven't, but you don't understand. Guys like me don't walk through the door every day looking for a job here, I'm sure. And I don't know, something struck with the kid. So he said, just hold on for a minute. And he went upstairs and talked to the boss, I guess. And the next thing you know, I'm going up to the boss's office and we have a conversation for a couple of minutes. And he was looking for a wholesale sales representative to handle the provinces outside of Quebec. He needed somebody English. It just was good timing, I guess, on my side.
Yeah.
That was High Times. That was High Times Canada at the time.
Right.
So Johnny had started that in 1980, and it developed a pretty good wholesale business there. Like I handled 140 customers outside of Quebec, and then we had all the walk-in business that was in Quebec, all the local head shops, and we'd have guys coming up from Kingston and Cornwall and places like that would come to shop there. So I was there through the transition while he was going through the lawsuit. They took the name High Times away from him, and prohibition in the nation. He could have kept it, but it was going to cost him like $13 million or something. Like that.
Yeah.
Hold on to the name. So he was like, that doesn't make any sense for me.
No.
That's when I really started to get into the real community side of it, right? No longer was cannabis just a personal thing. It became business for me.
Mm-hmm.
And through that process, working there, I came to learn a lot because I learned a lot from my customers, right? And I'm not the kind of guy that if you ask me a question about something that's supposed to be in my wheelhouse, and if I'm selling your product, I should know, right? I'm not the kind of guy who's going to just blow that off. I'm going to learn. I'm going to find out. You're not going to get me twice with the same question, type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So through interaction with the customers, I learned more and more and more, and I developed a lot of great relationships and became much more knowledgeable, especially when it came to concentrates, because they were just kind of emerging at that time. Like we've always had hash, and we've had and hash, shatters and raws and butters. These were just really starting to emerge then. Vape pens. I mean, I remember the first ones coming in, the juju joints.
I remember those.
Yeah.
Yes.
Coming across from Seattle unfilled, and guys were filling them here and moving them across. So, it was it was interesting. And then of course I had access. They had a lot of cultivators who used Hydro Times, which was part of their store network there. Johnny had. So a lot of guys with the old licenses for the medical, big grows and that. So I got to know people like that, and started to hear a lot more stories about people's the medical side of cannabis for people and what people were actually using it for, because I've always been a recreational user. I still am a recreational user. I would imagine that I'm getting the wellness benefits of cannabis, but but I had not had I've not had any specific reason to use it for medicinal purposes. So a lot of what I learned was from other people. So it became really, really interesting for me. And then
I've always believed that people sharing their stories is how you educate other people.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. That was a huge part of it for me. But then the part that struck me was how many people were finding relief from the inclusion of cannabis in their lifestyles, right? What it was able to do for them. And some of the stories are really incredible.
Yes, they are.
Mind-blowingly incredible. And most people wouldn't believe that was actually a result from people including RSO, let's say, with cancer going away.
Yeah.
Like that. Like that's.
I never say it's a cure-all for everything, but
it's a tool out of your toolbox. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To add to the regime of whatever regimen that you already need to keep your health. And it's just added to it.
But when you can see before your eyes a 3-year-old child or a 2-year-old child getting the medicinal benefits out of seizures preventions or stopping the seizures.
Yeah.
That's not a 3-year-old kid who's doing any acting or fooling around. Like you're seeing actual before your eyes benefit.
Yeah.
They're working
Yeah.
there, right?
No, that's it. I mean, one of the first videos I remember seeing was an old guy with Parkinson's on, I don't know whether it was YouTube or whatever. It was a long time ago. But the old guy with Parkinson's shaking so bad, and somebody give him the joint. He had a couple of puffs on the joint, and within like a minute, he had calmed right down. And it's like, how is that possible? Like, how does that transition occur?
Yeah.
And why aren't more people talking about it?
Yeah, exactly. It was blowing my mind. Some of the videos I used to show documentaries and go to cafes. People come and watch the documentaries with me.
Yeah.
And there was a fellow in there who had problems speaking. You know, he was all over the place. He's worse than what I am, obviously. And he'd smoke a joint, and you could hear it in his voice. The trembling come out, and it just nice and calm, and he could carry on a conversation. You would never even, know he had a problem.
Yeah. No, it's really incredible. And then while I was there, I ran into somebody who had access to doctors, and it was just about, at this time we're around 2017, I guess, right when the ACMPR was coming into effect. And somebody I knew had access to doctors who could prescribe cannabis through telemedicine. So I actually worked with probably close to 100 people to help them gain access to the doctors. But because we were in Quebec, none of the doctors were in Quebec.
Yeah, that was a big issue there. And at one time, to get involved in the program, you had to register with the provincial government because they wanted to use it for something.
And the doctor had to be practicing within the own province. We had a doctor that was from Ontario that actually went to Montreal and tried setting up a clinic, and people were arrested. And that was back in 2000 and what, I think it was 13 or 14. I can't remember exactly when that all went down, but it was probably 2012, 2013, actually, I think. But trying to find, and now nurse practitioners are, more readily available to be signing, licensing, which again, I have to question. So, but again, anybody who can gain access to medical licensing, all the power to them. They should be able to. But again, cannabis legalization should let us and allow everybody to grow as much cannabis as they want to. Because I think that the Canadian government's ripping the Canadians off by, four plants isn't even a gram. If you're a medical patient, 1 gram equals 5 plants. And you only have to go for recreational. So you're not even legally allowed to grow a gram of cannabis. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
You want more numbers? Raise those numbers.
Right? Let's be fair here.
Yeah.
There's no storage limits, right? You can store whatever you want. If you can grow 20 pounds, you can have 20 pounds, but there's, let's be reasonable here. 4 plants isn't even a gram. So let's be fair to Canadians, legally, recreationally, medicinally. Let's just let everybody grow as much as they can possibly do it. We've already ruined the market. It's not like people are going to go out and start growing enough because a pound of cannabis is worth $300. Why we don't have designated growers anymore? Why we have no dispensaries that are actually medical anymore? Because there's no access to medical cannabis because people quit growing it. So let people grow it. Nobody's going to overgrow it, I don't think, because there's no market for it.
No, not anymore. There isn't.
No, I know.
Yeah. I mean, I was heavily into my boss when I was at High Towns Johnny when the ACMPR came out. He wanted to do a medical grow with 4 licenses. So he asked me if I was interested in building out that facility and running it for him. So we did at that time. And within a year, the prices of cannabis had gone down to $600-700 a pound, which was crazy. I mean, totally unexpected, right? And I got into extraction by that time. I was running a closed loop system, doing rosin, making pens and all this kind of stuff. And I was also extracting for other medical patients so that they could get their concentrates and make their own preparations at home. But it got to the point where the value was so low that nobody was interested in you just couldn't pay for the time, or they, you know what I mean? Just to do 10 runs was $500 a butane. The medical grade butane just to run 10 times, and then you have the time involved and all these kind of things. So
it's not even worth growing. It takes so much time and money and effort to grow a wool of cannabis. So basically, you're only now really wanting to grow just for yourselves, right? Yeah. And then utilizing whatever, which is pretty much what it was meant for anyway, your own self, sustainability. That's all medical patients really ever wanted too, is to be able to grow their own. It wasn't supposed to be what it ended up being either, to be fair. Like, I mean, it did, because there's always that avenue. People will always make, a market out of things, right? So again, that's human nature. But in reality, I think now it's be the time to really push the Canadian government with legalization, to allow, the limits for cannabis plants to be exceeded.
Oh, there's so much that has to be changed and updated.
For examples, like 10 milligrams for a whole package, like you might be 10 milligrams per piece, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to put a limitation on it. So a package of 6 would be 60 milligrams, and rather than fucking one package being 10 milligrams with 6 candies that are 2.5 or 0.25 milligrams. That's ridiculous. Same with the drinks and all the other things that they're limiting on dosing. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
It is. I completely agree with that. You should be able to buy multiple pieces at different milligrams, 2.5, 5, or 10, right? Because some people 2.5 works, but some people 250 doesn't work, right?
Some people 1,000 milligrams.
Yeah, some people,
1,000 milligrams of some of these, isolates and stuff. I had a friend that actually was feeding her daughter 1,000 milligrams per syringe 4 or 5 times a day just to keep the child alive.
Why not?
That's incredible.
They could create a medical end of things with higher dosing and all that.
And I think that's what it should be. There should be 2 separate markets, really. Although they can service through the same chain, but there should be 2 separate markets. There should be a medical focus, and then a recreational side of things.
There is when you go to sell it. So if you take the Sell It Right course in British Columbia, there's a distinct line between medical and recreational, because they don't want the recreational market touching the word medical anywhere.
No.
They still recognize cannabis as medicine, and until they do, this is where, like I said, I say this every week. I say this every week for the last.
Yes, she does.
Every week. It's just the same.
Yeah, because the government doesn't recognize it as medicine.
And I think
there may be just one program in the end. It won't even be a program.
The whole bureaucratic bullshit it's just one rigmarole after another, and it starts from the top and peters its way down. Right? We're not even talking about government. We're talking about college and physicians to begin with. So there's so many different entities and so many different levels of bureaucratic bullshit to wade through. Where do you even start?
And they're advising the doctors not to prescribe cannabis anyway. They don't want them to.
Yep. Absolutely.
No. So that's pretty discouraging.
It is. If it was cannabis in a pill, which there are those options.
You can get those options. You can absolutely get.
They're easier to sign that.
They're really not eager to prescribe that either. They'd rather give you like codeine, or give you morphine, or give you Dilaudid.
And I think there's enough evidence out there to show that full plant extracts, full spectrum, everything is what's really beneficial. You don't really need the isolated compounds, right? The distillates and the isolates and that. They're not as effective as a full spectrum preparation.
I always go for full. Get everything in there.
Yep, you want a full.
Exactly.
That's the magic behind RSO.
Yeah, it's everything. You take the bus will still go down the road if you take a wheel off of the back end, but it doesn't go down the road as well.
Right. We've been saying this for 2 decades. None of this is new. You know what I mean? It's like for 2 decades we've been trying to follow the same story, the same thing down and same thing down, and banging our heads against this proverbial wall. Nobody wants to hear it.
No,
you too. It's about the hour break time.
Yeah.
Break time. When we get back from the break, we never did finish the story. We got into the high times, but I like to, as everybody can see there, your name is Dr. High.
Dr. High. Well, that's not my name, but that's something I started, which we can get into.
Okay,
after.
yeah, exactly. So we'll get into that. I've got your website sitting there waiting to be brought up when we get into the conversation and everything, so we can show people around. So Perfect. Off we go. When we return, Tamara and I will continue our talk with our guest, David Johnson. This is the Pace Radio Show. We're live here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to save the VCBC at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
Pace Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com. CBG TV broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. Today on the show, we're joined by, as you can see, Dr. High is actually his name is David Johnson, and we're going to get into Dr. High, find out what all Dr. High is about. Why don't we just start there, David?
All right. So I I ended up going out to Alberta to work in licensed producer. So I spent a few years out there working with Freedom Cannabis. And then my family is here in Belleville, and they owned a business. And my mother asked me if I would be able to come and help out with that business when my stepdad was ready to retire. So I walked away from the cannabis industry to go into a seasonal business. When the season ended last year, I found myself with nothing to do in October and missing being in the cannabis business. I thought, what can I do independently, right? What can I do here without being able to get into the industry? So I think the biggest gap right now is the informational gap for people who are getting older, who may have been involved with cannabis in high school, or used it a bit in college and then went on to live their lives and then haven't been a part of it for a long time. And this is an area that can really benefit from cannabis. Us elder people now, so much, you know.
That's right.
So I thought it was important to kind of put together information in one place where people can find out enough to be inspired to talk to a doctor if they have Crohn's or MS or Tourette's or Parkinson's, you know, because there's a lot of information out there that says perhaps it's beneficial, but try and do the research, right? Try and go out there online and figure it out. It's very difficult to do. So I sat down last October and started to compile all the studies that I could find on specific medical conditions. Went through those and then put them together into short books, 40 pages, 45-page books. And then I created drhigh.ca. So what you have up there right now is drhigh.com, which was the evolution. I actually started drhigh.ca, which has no commercial intent whatsoever. It's strictly educational. And it's designed to kind of introduce people to cannabis and the possibilities of cannabis itself. So that's why I put that together, was to begin to educate people and give them the confidence, because doctors are intimidating for a lot of people, right? A lot of people look at a doctor and think that no matter what they say, that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the first site I created here. And I just filled it with enough information. I got through all that. Yeah. You got through all that?
Well, no, as far as when I switched over to .ca instead of .com, which I didn't realize that there was a .ca for some reason. Yeah. Going into the sites, they always they ask you, your age, your verification, and so on and so forth. So.
Yeah, so that's where it started. Because I had the time on my hands, and of course, with the advent of AI technology, it makes it a lot easier to compile data. So I started to use AI to scan the internet and start to pull stuff together that I could then go through and read as much as possible. And then I compiled them into these books. And so they're broken down specifically, like from MS, from cancer, Parkinson's, Tourette's, everything that you're seeing there. Plus now there's 25 in total at this time. Be hearing my dogs.
Mine hasn't started barking yet.
You're around.
Mine's outside.
And mostly, I give these away. Like I don't. If you go into the ebooks here on this site, they're free. You just have to send me a message.
Here.
Yeah. So the books that you'll see listed there are free. I don't charge anybody for those at all. If you go into .ca and you send me a message in the contact and say, I'm interested in cannabis and chronic pain or PTSD, I'll send you out a copy right away. And it's not, I mean, if you're cannabis savvy or if you're in the cannabis world, then these books aren't going to be very interesting for you because there's no great revelation in them, right? But basically what it does is it takes the studies and puts them into one place. Not all the studies, but enough relevant information that somebody can look through there and say, you know what, there seems to be a decent body evidence that cannabis might be good for my, fibromyalgia, let's say. So it's just meant to get people to go to the doctor and speak to the doctor and have at least some ammunition with them, right? Because a lot of doctors push back, or they'll say that they're not interested in cannabis, or that the College of Physicians discourages them from prescribing.
Yes.
So that's where it started off. And I also threw them up into Amazon because it's just exposure there, right? And they're like $3.50, but every week on Facebook, I pick one of these books. I do, a nice post about them, and I give it away for the whole week. So since March, I actually listed the books. I've given away close to 600 through Amazon, and then probably another 300 or 400 through the website. So, it's been pretty successful.
Good.
I think it's getting information in people's hands is important. And that's really what it was about for me, was just being able to provide access to that information. There's none of my opinion in here. I don't have any opinion that I state because, after all, I'm not a doctor. I have no medical training. I've just witnessed a lot of incredible stories and spoken to a lot of people. And when I was working with the doctor-patient matching, because I was in Quebec, there was translation that was necessary for a lot of people to speak to the doctors. So I would bring in someone to translate, and I sat in on all of those conferences, all of those calls. So I got to hear what the doctors and the PAs were saying, and I was surprised. They were actually pretty knowledgeable. They were not just writing scripts, right? Like they really had a base of knowledge, ones at least that I was fortunate enough to be able to listen to and see going on. So, it was pretty impressive. So the reason I actually, I just built the .com as a secondary thought, because I really wanted to do this entirely without having, people who are sick and need cannabis don't need the additional expense of spending money to gain information, right?
Yeah.
But it does cost me money to run. So I actually built the .com so that I could involve some sort of revenue from it. I could derive some sort of revenue that would at least maybe cover the expenses. But so far, I think
using the revenue from those, using the revenue from that stuff in order to be able to fund the advocacy end of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so far, I think I'm making between $30 and $40 a month in revenue. So.
Yeah. I'm sure Tamara can agree that it's not a business where you make a lot of money when you're out to help patients. So.
No, that's it. It's about the passion, right? That for me, that's what it's about. It's about the passion, and I'm just hoping that perhaps, my wife is good enough to allow me to dedicate my time to this. Right. So I don't have any outside employment really at the moment. Dr. High is my sole focus and trying to bring awareness. And I'm just lucky that I have a wife that really supports what I'm doing. And she's a nurse that works with seniors.
So there you go. Yeah. So she would probably hear from them.
Yeah.
Me and Bert, we go off, we turn the fan on in the bathroom there.
Well, it's pretty frustrating for her, right? Because she works at a long-term care facility where a lot of the residents have an interest in cannabis. But the problem is they have one doctor who comes in, right? They don't really have the ability to go out to see doctors and things like that. So they have the doctor that comes in, and that particular doctor is against cannabis, doesn't see any value in it. So these people don't have access, and a lot of them are very interested in it. So it's pretty sad that that's the case, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I know, like when we were doing the shows, the
That's
home
the
shows and
beauty of
stuff.
a cell phone and
What's
Zoom.
that?
I said that's the beauty of a cell phone and in Zoom. An advocate just goes into the senior, signs them all up, and then it's mail order.
You know, and that's a nice thing because cannabis can be used in a non-invasive way, right? Like I could understand a care facility not wanting people to smoke joints inside.
Yeah.
That makes total sense to me.
Vape,
But
vapes, edibles. There's nothing that can stop it. Why should grandma not be able to have a brownie if she just chooses to have it?
absolutely no reason that I can think of. That's for sure. And you know, my stepdad has just been going through cancer treatment for the last, I'm going to say 6 months now, and he had smoked the odd joint throughout his life, but not really, not really been a cannabis guy. And when he started going through it, especially the chemo, he was having a rough time, especially no appetite and the nausea. And so, funnily enough, he did the Legacy 420 commercial, but Legacy 420 is a place that I took him and got him started on the RSO there to go along with the treatment, right? And it made a big difference for him as far as how he felt from the side effects anyway of the treatment, with stimulating his appetite and allowing him to get some sleep at night and things like that. So, I'm just a huge believer in cannabis, and I think that everybody should have access to it. And the more we can remove the stigma and show people that there is really a good reason to include this in your lifestyle, whether you're sick or not sick, there's still benefit to it, right?
That's right.
Preventative medicine in some ways, I think.
There's so many people that always said it was all about just getting stoned, right? But there's much more to cannabis, and I know in those early years when being involved in this back in 2007 to 2012, there was a lot of times where we were looked down upon because we were cannabis consumers, or maybe because we had a leaf on the back of our hoodie. Like I was in Oshawa at a event that was going on there, and I wasn't even smoking. I just had my Pace hoodie on that had the leaf on the back, and I got asked to show my medical license by the police officer to show that I had a medical cannabis license and I wasn't even possessing it. I just thought I was there just because I was there.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It really is.
But then, I've gone to lots of events where the police officers have been really good. They've been really great. Guide, protect us from the cars and stuff like that, or have a conversation with them as you do the tour around downtown Toronto, most of the police officers and the horses and stuff. It was always friendly and good.
I've actually smoked weed with at least 3 police officers I can pull off the top of my head right now. Not while they were on duty, but
no.
I have smoked with cops, so I know that they do. They're not. And for them, I think that it's got to be frustrating for them too, because they're enforcing something that they know is kind of innocuous, right? And there are things that really require much more attention.
They're not anymore, and that's the beauty of legalization. 60,000 people have not been arrested for small possession. You don't hear about big boss. You don't hear about people getting caught at the border with fucking pounds and pounds of weed anymore. Nobody's going to jail for cannabis in Canada, and that's the beauty of legalization. If it only did one thing, people aren't getting arrested for smoking a joint.
Absolutely.
I've told this story lots of times. I got a friend of mine. He had to do community service work because he got busted with 3 joints. And I was with him recently. We went for a tour to one of our sponsors, and he was sharing the stories with them. And it got to the point he'd gone before the same judge 3 times over the fact that he'd been busted with 2 or 3 joints. He's 79 years of age now, and the judge told the officers, "I don't want to see this guy in front of me again."
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense plugging up the court's time for something that does no
That's
harm.
money. $30,000 for every possession charge that goes through the courts.
Mm.
Especially if it gets put off, you go in, you get a permit, whatever. You can put that thing off for 2 years and cost more money.
Yeah, no, I guess that's ultimately it, right? If you want to know who the beneficiary is, follow the money.
Follow the money.
Don't follow the words, follow the money, and then you have a true understanding of what's going on in this world, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
it's pretty sad like that, but
exactly.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Now, okay, go ahead.
Oh no, you're about to ask.
Okay, yeah. I was just going through your website more there as far as the Dr. High, the information and patient one. As I'm going through a lot of this stuff, who does your artwork?
I do, but I use AI.
Oh, okay.
I use AI. I started to play around with that because that was part of what made building Dr. High possible for me, because it's a lot of writing, right? There's a lot of content there in those books, and I mean, for me to sit down and handwrite out 250,000 words would have been crazy. So I started looking at software that could assist me with these things, and that led me into the AI art world. And I started to play with that to see what it could do in the cannabis way, because I didn't know if it had been trained for that sort of thing, right? Certain prompts you put in will say that it goes against community standards. You'll find that with cannabis too. When I started first working with ChatGPT, trying to see what its understanding of the cannabis world was, it pushed back a couple of times, saying that my queries were kind of against the community standard. But that's one thing that I have done with Dr. High is I've created a couple of thousand really unique cannabis images, and that's one thing I think that if you enjoy cannabis, you love cannabis art. You love the leaf, you love everything that's represented by it. So that's where that's done. And that's why I opened the Etsy store, was because a lot of people like this kind of art. It's, I think on Facebook, since I started on Facebook in March, I've been able to gain about coming up on about 4,400 followers there, let's say. I don't really like that word, but and
contacts.
That's it. I get a lot of interaction on the posts that I do about the potential benefits of cannabis. But it's a firm belief of mine that half of that interaction is simply the art. And then the other half are people actually reading the content, right? And finding that interesting too, because you see it in the comments all the time.
Yeah.
But I love the art side of it too. I think it's something I really enjoy.
Yeah, these are I've been seeing some of the stuff I've been seeing posted online. A fella that used to be a host here on the Pace Radio Show, Owen Smith. He's been playing a lot with the AI and the cannabis art as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can even see right into her eyeball.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Some of these technologies, what they can do. And back here, a lot of what you're seeing on here was before I understood anything about pixels and image sizes and things like that. So a lot of these haven't been properly scaled and cleaned up, which I do now when I'm creating the art. But actually, with this website, kind of a sideline, I wanted to have some information in there about Dr. Raphael Michelin, who was one of the first real serious cannabis scientists, right? I wanted to be able to publish his studies. So I didn't want to do it without permission. So I found his email address and I sent him an email. And I asked him for permission to publish his work on the site. And I gave him the information for the site so he can go take a look at it and everything. And he got back to me about a week later, and he called me Dr. Johnson. I think he confused Dr. High with me actually being a doctor.
Right. Probably.
It wasn't my intent ever to deceive anybody that way, but he made that, because I guess the spelling of doctor like this is German. the way that they'll spell it in Germany, apparently. So he
yeah.
that, right? But he said, I've looked at your website and you have my permission to publish my works there. And I got that email from him on the 1st of March, and sadly enough, he passed away, I think, around the 10th.
So
it was fairly close to the time that I communicated with him. But, I really want to do this in a way that people can trust the information. And that's why there's no opinion there. And that's why you see that website is fully linked. So if I'm making a statement about cannabis, there's a link to the study there.
Yes.
Right? So people can go further and look at, Harvard Med or National Institute of Health or PubMed, because they're the real authorities, right?
I have on the PACE website, I have a thing of links as well. And the one I go to quite often when I look for information is Granny Stormcrow. It is a link. It was a website that was originally put together with a bunch of links, or it was information gathered by a school teacher, a former school teacher, and all of it is links. Okay, like pages, just on the page, just a link. So then there's another article. So you gotta say like at least 10 per page. There is over 3,500 pages within this document, and there's at least 10 to 15 links per page, and everything is in alphabetical order.
Oh, nice.
It makes it so much easier to find. It's a great resource of information. Now, I don't know how long it's been since it's been updated.
Right.
But even old information is good information, because
absolutely.
Especially if it's good information. You know, that encourages people. They look further, to keep looking for maybe newer stuff, like updates from that.
There's a lot of stuff that's coming out now. There's a lot of current information that's coming out also. I mean, through LinkedIn, we see quite a bit of it, right? Because you got Peter Grimspoon and you have Jake Felice and you have quite a few medical professionals who are putting out a lot of the most current research there. So, it's pretty interesting. I do a 2-hour show 5 days a week on
Hang on. Hold that thought.
Yeah,
because I was going to talk about that after in the next segment. So we're only a minute away from going to break. Okay, so why don't we just go to break now? Okay, and then we'll come back and we can talk about that.
Sounds good.
All right, sounds good to you. All right, off we go. We're going to pay some bills from Tamara, and we'll come back. We'll continue our discussion with David Johnson, who's Dr. High, but he's not a real doctor.
Nope.
You're watching and listening to the Pace Radio Show. We're here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Today's program, Tamara and I were joined by our friend and our guest, David Johnson, also aka Dr. High. All right, David, before the break, you were just starting to talk about WTHC.
WTHC, yeah. When I started on Facebook posting stuff about the potential of cannabis for specific diseases, I was contacted by a couple of different people and asked to come on and do their Facebook live shows. One was Master Rochi, the other was Hippie and Hobbies on WTHC Radio. So I did a couple of guest shows with them. I came on as a guest a couple of times. And then about 2 months ago, the owner of WTHC, the Hippie, he contacted me and asked me if I was interested in doing a daily show with him, Monday to Friday. So I saw an opportunity to perhaps start doing almost like cannabis coaching for people live, right? Where we open up the chat and I will take any question from anybody that's cannabis related and I'll try and work through it. Also, I think that people are paying way too much for their medicine, right? Especially when you're buying carts or edibles and things like that, which you can really produce so much cheaper at home for yourself, right? Because you have access to the compounds. So really, it's about teaching people how to effectively save money, medicate properly, and work through the process. So for a couple hours a day, I'm fortunate enough to be able to talk to people about the potential benefits of cannabis and the inclusion in the lifestyle. We've had a doctor on as a guest, a medical cannabis prescribing doctor in Pennsylvania who was super interesting. The guy had 37 years as an emergency room physician before retiring. Nice. And his wife was an ER nurse, and she first became interested in cannabis. And through her interest in speaking with him, he started to become interested in it. And now he is a full-time prescribing physician in Pennsylvania. So he's going to probably do a monthly thing with us there.
Nice.
Which is really great to have, because we can talk about as much as we want, but we can't really offer any kind of medical advice to people because obviously we're not medical professionals. But he can. He can actually speak to the clinical side of things. But interesting information comes out too. Like we spoke about whether they're teaching about the endocannabinoid system in medical schools.
Yeah.
He said actually back in 2018 when he was looking at this, he found that only 17% of medical schools in the U.S. were talking about the endocannabinoid system at all. and considering how important that is. And I asked him point blank, I said, Dr. Harris, how important is the endocannabinoid system in maintaining balance in the human body? And he's like, it's really like it's one of the most important systems for regulating all the others.
Why would they want to keep that hidden from doctors? Like, why wouldn't they teach that stuff to doctors?
Yeah, I really don't know why they wouldn't teach it, but I think there's a reason cannabis has gained this stigma and it was illegal for 90 years, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think it had anything to do with the plant itself. I believe that it was outside interests, pharmaceutical industry, DuPont with synthetic fibers.
Politics and racism is exactly what
this also that was a part of it too. But I think it had a lot to do with the financial end because, hemp was used for medicine for a very, very long time. And it was also one of the biggest fibers for clothing and things like that. But as soon as DuPont's discovered that they could use petroleum to produce rayon and polyester and nylon and things like this, and then the pharmaceutical industry came in. Of course, the rear narcotics guy, that Harry Genslinger.
You missed the whole cotton industry. So actually, hemp was pushed out by the cotton industry long before petroleum kind of got in there, right?
Yeah, that would have been there too, right? Because cotton isn't as durable as hemp. It's a much tougher fiber with a longer life.
Well, instead of wearing a plant, we wear oil.
Yeah. No, that's it. And we're going to have to fight for a long time to break that 90 years alive.
It's a consumer. Yeah. It's a consumer thing with corporate too. It's all supply and demand, right? Hemp lasts too long. You get a T-shirt with hemp, it'll last you for 20 years, where a cotton shirt will last you 3. They need to turn that, over to make money. It's all about consumerism, and that's where really why we're at where we're at with cannabis in all forms and hemp production. Hemp production in Canada too is regulated just as much as cannabis growing is. You can only grow actually 82 metric ton of cannabis seed per year as a hemp farmer in Canada. You can, and that's the maximum you can grow, right? So the same regulations, even tougher regulations than most farmers do, never mind when it comes to production of hemp.
That's it. And this plant, let's forget about recreational use and medical use. If you just use this plant for its other values on the planet, such as construction materials, plastics, ethanol fuel, all the things that can be done with that hemp plant. They talk about global warming and the state of our environment. Let's get these farmers that aren't able to bring crops to market all growing hemp, and we'll have a much better world. Like this plant has so much potential to benefit humanity in many, many different ways. Yet,
when I first started into all this, and I wanted to be a sponge, to gather up information. And I gotta say, probably one of the first books I read after I left, since I had left high school. Like, I didn't really read books even when I was there. Yeah. But other than some magazines, the first book I read was Jack Hare's Emperor Wears No Clothes. I read that, and I just, it was almost one of those things where I'd only spend so much time reading it, and then I go back and read more because I didn't want to read the whole thing at once. And the information that I grabbed out of there was just phenomenal.
It's incredible, right? I think the claim in that book is about 25,000 different products can be manufactured from.
I was to say 50.
They can actually make hempcrete too in Australia.
Yeah, hempcrete.
Yeah.
And they build houses, but they're also finding that they can use like all kinds of the different fibers within it, right? And CBD is different derivative from hemp than it is from cannabis as well. So there's difference. Hemp oil comparably to cannabis oils too, depending on the strain of the plant. That you have to keep in mind because you can't really cook with hemp oil. Like it doesn't cook so well.
With hemp oil, it's got a low smoke point, right? Isn't that the problem?
Yeah. Low burn, low temp. You can, but it's really low temp.
there was a group of people that was trying to get farmers in our area. This is probably, I don't know, close to 15 years ago, that were trying to get a bunch of farmers to grow hemp in order to sustain a hempcrete um, production, so they can have all that because of building with it. Trying to get people to change over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's they say that it's mold resistant,
Yeah,
flame retardant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are a lot of things. The particle board that you can make from hemp is way stronger than the one they can make from wood. And let's talk about the pulp and paper industry, right? What's that statistic? 1 acre of hemp will produce as much paper as 4 acres of trees that take 30 years to grow. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. In Jack's book, he talks about, even in the movie on Jack itself, he talks about in those old days, all those ships, everything that from the clothes that the sailors were wearing, the books that they were writing their notes in, the sails on the ships, the ropes, the stuff that was sealing the side of the ship so it wouldn't sink.
That's it. And there was a time in the U.S. you could pay your taxes with hemp.
Yes.
You know, so it makes you wonder, how do we get so far away from the reality, right? You have to question it. And
consumerism and greed.
Yeah. But it's like, right?
Harry lost his job after Prohibition, alcohol prohibition ended. He needed a new one. So
the industry here, it's kind of a shame that the way they implement it in Canada, that you found a lot of legacy people were shut out, and they were really the knowledge, right?
Yes.
I worked in the corporate cannabis side of things in Canada, and it was very discouraging to me because the money that's involved kind of eliminates cannabis people and puts business people in order to be able to build out these licensed producers and that.
Yeah.
And they don't have a passion for the plant. They only want to bring up the numbers. They just, it was discouraging for me to be in that world. I really, as much as I loved the work environment, I didn't really love the culture.
But you're going, geez, I've always wanted to work in cannabis, and now I'm working in cannabis, and
they have no culture.
Not what I thought it was going to be like.
They don't have the culture. They don't have a clue. Like, we had a culture. We had a community. We still do have a community. That's why we still do these shows, and we still try to keep each other, connected and everything else, because we've all worked really hard. Whether we were meeting, like in Ottawa to protest on Parliament Hill, whether we were going to TY expos and sharing amongst each other, different strains of knowledge amongst patients and other people, advocating, with our MPs. So many things that we've done over the years that, really push this forward. So we do have a community. It's just that it's in little pockets all over the country and little communities, and that's what makes cannabis make the world go on. Because it doesn't matter where you are in Canada, there's always somebody else in your neighborhood that's smoking cannabis.
Oh,
somebody relates to somebody else that wants to learn more, right? And that's the beauty of cannabis. It unites people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I've always believed. I can smoke a joint by myself and get high. But if I took that same joint and shared it with a friend, we would both get higher. What I mean? It would be a better experience. Yeah. There's something about the shared experience of cannabis. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. Yeah.
Get out of it from your friends, right?
I was, many times people would say, and I'm sure maybe even Tamara, people question you, as a patient, and you're sharing joints with other people, are you not risking, getting sick?
I don't share joints. I will roll 2 joints and share that way, and I will give my friend a doobie, and we will smoke them together, which is sharing, and vice versa. But since COVID, I don't share. Since
COVID, it's very limited sharing for me. Yeah.
In my husband's home, we share joints, but even last time he was sick, and I was like, "You stay in the living room, I'll stay in here. You smoke your I'll smoke mine, right?" And then once he was feeling better, then we would share a joint again. But again, you have to be careful and mindful, and it's not as free. And I think that's because we've all become aware of how easily we can become sick because of COVID. You know what I mean? And that's unfortunate, but it's, I guess, good. It's made us more aware of our environment.
Yeah, it's been really a game changer. That COVID has really.
Yeah, in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah, this isn't a political program, so we'll stay away from those ways. You know?
as I always say to people, the C in PACE stands for cannabis.
Yes, yeah, exactly. No, it's really cool. It's been doing this for so long.
Back to the THC thing. And you were talking about the doctor coming on the show and so on and so forth. Is it comes on a steady day of the week, steady time of the week? What type of schedule?
Monday to Friday from noon till 2 Eastern.
Okay.
So we do 5 days a week, 2 hours, 2-hour shows from noon till 2.
And you have guests. You have guests every week, or
we have guests as often as we can find them, because we try. There are a lot of people who would like to come on and promote what they do, because we like to promote small businesses, cannabis businesses.
Yeah.
We like to learn from the people we speak with.
Yeah.
But we can't bring in people who don't have legitimate businesses. Right? I mean, there are a lot of people that have the appearance of it. We can't really bring in the gray market side of it or the black market side of it, because it's just really not conducive to what we're trying to promote, which is legal cannabis consumption. And and we don't care whether it's recreational or medicinal. It doesn't matter, but yeah, we bring in the guests that we can. We've had a couple of medical patients. One who had stage X esophageal cancer. They couldn't diagnose this actual cancer stage from the tumor. And through her treatment, she ran into people who were involved with RSO, and she went into the RSO from it. And she's been 3.5 years with no evidence of disease now since she did her treatment with the RSO, and has been an advocate. So we bring in the guests that we can, but I find it's actually difficult to find people who want to come on and share their experiences.
We always encourage people to share their stories, to come on the show.
You never know who you're going to help, right?
Yeah, you just don't know. There's somebody who's watching who may be a person who's dealing with the same medical condition, or a family member of somebody dealing with that condition or whatever. And they'll say, hey, you got to watch this, or listen to this show or whatever. And then, it just sort of gets the ball rolling, right?
Yeah. And that's the idea. Like we've only been at it now for, I think we got about 30, 35 episodes under our belt. So it's fairly new. But I think that as time goes on, we'll be able to bring more people in, because it would be nice to bring in somebody every day to discuss their journey, right? To understand their journey, because there are a lot of people who are curious. There's a tremendous amount of curiosity. Just the fact that in the, I guess, 6 months now that I've actively been promoting Dr. High and trying to bring the awareness out, the fact that I have, over 4,000 people who've wanted to connect with me just in Facebook, and then there's Instagram and Twitter and all these other social media platforms. So
how do you keep up with them all?
It's really difficult. I actually had to have, and the group that I started seeing your posts in, which was Weed World Media.
Okay, yes.
The reason I got involved with that was because I hired the person who started that group, Sarah Jane Wilson, to do my social media for me, because I'm in my 50s. I don't understand social media that much. You know what I mean?
I have a few, like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. But once you get into all these Twitch and all these other
I don't even touch
those. And there's the names you can't even think of.
Yeah.
There's just too much.
Yeah, there really is.
Your life.
Yeah. No, it's difficult. But from what I've seen is there's definitely a real interest in this. And I can look at the demographics of the people who interact with what I'm doing. And I find that the largest segment is people between 40 and 60 years old. There's a small number in the 18 to 30 range, 30 to 40. There's a little bit bigger proportion, but the vast majority is 40 to 60, really. So that tells me that this is a segment of the population that really wants to know more about the potential of this plant as they age and what it can do for them. You know, and I hope that's the information that we can bring to people. The more people that we can help find the confidence to at least try it. I mean, cannabis isn't for everybody. We all know that, right? We know that there's a segment of the population that doesn't tolerate it well.
Just like cheeseburgers.
Yeah, just like anything. You know, it's the same for anything. But what we also know is that cannabis doesn't kill people.
Correct.
So there is no harm in at least trying. You know, and you may receive the benefit or you may not. But it's disturbing, right? I worked in a store when I first moved to Edmonton before the licensed producer was ready to go. I worked in a place called Two Guys with Pipes in West Edmonton Mall, which was a small little head shop, but got a ton of traffic, right? Because of its location. And one of my first encounters with a senior in cannabis, a lady came in, she must have been well into her 70s. And she was talking to me with her hand kind of covering her mouth. She didn't really want anybody to say, but hear what she was saying. So I was like, well, you know, how can I help you? And she said, my doctor says I need a glass pipe. I said, your doctor says you need a glass pipe. Why does your doctor say you need a glass pipe? Well, he's giving me a prescription for cannabis, and he says that I should use a glass pipe to smoke it. And I'm like, your doctor has misled you, because that's not where you should be starting, right? At 70 years old, smoking from a glass pipe, you're going to have probably a very negative experience.
That's right. You sure
You're
are.
not going back to continue the regimen of using that medication. So, you know, I spoke to her about it, and I said, what you really should be trying is a vaporizer. You know, that's really where you should be going. Glass pipe is not what you're looking for. But the fact that even the doctor directed her to get a glass pipe to start using cannabis for the first time at her age, that's going to be a really negative experience.
Yeah, that's not good. People that age don't want to be smoking out of a glass pipe. They want
you got to be
have a
fair
nice
to the
or
doctor
something.
tries to start smoking cannabis, regardless of what tool he actually told her to use. Maybe he's ill-informed. He still directed her to go try smoking cannabis.
Yes, and
so
this
that's a step forward right there, right?
Yes,
to be fair.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm just keeping an eye on the time.
Yes, I can see that we're getting
everybody say good day to Steve.
Good day, Steve. Steve is actually one of our friends from the show, WTHC show, who pops in with us every day. Steve's in Australia. He's a medical patient in Australia. So
is he?
Yeah.
Oh, good. It's always good to meet more patients to tell
that's
stories.
it. And they have a decent regimen over there, but it's the same like everywhere else, right? It's pretty sad.
Yeah.
The money that you have to have access to afford your medication. You know, like this is a real hard thing for people.
People say grow yourself. It's free. Like that hydro bill isn't free.
No.
Right? No. In Australia, they've also been advocating for cannabis for many years. I had when I had my Kootenai Cannabis Cup, I actually had activists from Australia come in and join us. Yeah. So we've got them in Mardi Gras is every year in Nimbin, Australia. So go check them out. There's a dispensary there that they have some decent Canadian RSO.
Nimbin is the one area of Australia that's super cannabis friendly, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. The Mardi Gras cannabis. All right, you two. I've got to keep an eye on this time here. I've got a show running in behind me. All right. Shout out time. Person, place, a thing, website. Let us know where we can find you, so on and so forth.
You can find me at drhigh.com, drhigh.ca, or you can find me on WTHC Radio, Radio 365, which is an online station. And we stream Monday to Fridays from noon until 2 on Facebook under David Johnson or WTHC Radio, and on YouTube. these shows, and they're fully interactive. Any cannabis questions you have, anything you want to discuss, anything you want to clarify, come on in and put it into the chats, and we'll address it right away.
Yeah, interactive with your viewers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as you saw, we do that too.
Yeah.
Some nights it's really busy, sometimes it's not.
Yeah,
that's
it.
Yeah. Tamara, anything you want to say?
Puppy needs a home.
It doesn't get any bigger than that either, does it?
Yeah, a little bit bigger. Yeah, his mom's a little bit bigger than that. Yeah, he will get bigger. And can join us again next Wednesday, and then me again at noon on Wednesday for Cannabis and Coffee with Marijuana. And I'll have a guest next week too.
All right, that's at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Right.
2 p.m. Eastern time, noon Mountain Standard Time. Yeah, 11 a.m. on the coast.
And you mentioned drhigh.com, drhigh.ca. That's right. Okay, other than that, thanks to our sponsors, the friendly folks at Limestone City Hydroponics.ca, legacy420.com, well, Camelford Lifestyle Shop in downtown Camelford. Also, thanks to our guest, David Johnson of Dr. High, for coming on the program and trying to tame his dog down at the same time.
Yeah.
we all had the dog issue. Mine was over here growing at me saying, let's go, Dad. It's time for a walk. Thanks to Tamara, and thanks to you, the listeners and watchers, for tuning into the program. We really appreciate it. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.